Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to completely reframe what actually happens when you finally start losing that incredibly stubborn belly fat. And I'm not just talking about the soft stuff, you know the kind, the fat you literally can't pinch, the kind hiding from the mirror. Honestly, most people don't even know they have it, but it's just sitting there, quietly messing with almost every system in your body. So today, we're breaking down the unseen journey of melting visceral fat. We're going to track those hidden internal changes, literally day by day and week by week.
You know that absolute frustration when you start a new health routine, you're doing everything right, and the scale barely budges? Well, there's a real biological reason for that. The harsh truth is, the mirror lies to you for weeks. It really does. The wild part about visceral fat leaving your body is that the very first changes, they are entirely invisible to the naked eye. But on the inside, oh man, something absolutely massive is taking place right under the surface.
But before we start our biological countdown, we need to officially identify our target. Visceral fat is not that soft layer right under your skin. We're talking about deep fat. It literally wraps itself around your liver, your gut, and yeah, even your heart. It's no wonder doctors actually call it the silent killer. And here's the crazy part. Even though it usually makes up less than 10% of your total body fat, it causes the vast majority of the metabolic damage. It's like a tiny spark causing a massive forest fire. All right, so let's start this biological countdown right at the very beginning, the first 24 hours. Literally the moment you start cutting out those late-night snacks, maybe getting some more steps in, and finally skipping the sugary drinks, an immediate chemical shift kicks off inside you.
Ever feel a little cranky or just oddly hyper-alert on day one of a new routine? Well, guess what? That isn't a failure. It's actual proof that your body got the message. Within just a few hours, your insulin levels start to drop. Think of insulin like a padlock. When it's high, your fat cells stay securely locked in storage mode. But as insulin falls, those locks finally spring open. Your body stops scrambling for quick sugar and actually shifts over to burning that stored fuel. So if you feel a bit weird or super hungry that first day, don't panic. That discomfort is literally just your body adjusting to a brand new fuel source. Moving right along to days 2 and 3, this quiet internal chemistry really starts to ramp up. This is the exact stage when those stubborn fat cells deep in your belly begin releasing these tiny fat droplets directly into your bloodstream. Now those droplets travel straight over to your liver, which basically acts like a giant sorting center. As your liver takes on the job of a busy warehouse managing these new deliveries of fat, it actually gets better at processing it over time. And we know this happens fast. A recent 2024 trial out of Japan proved it. They just had people follow basic daily nutrition guidelines. We're talking no starvation diets, no extreme rules. And they saw a clear drop in visceral fat right alongside improved blood markers. So even though you won't see a six-pack in the mirror just yet, you might actually notice you aren't as bloated after lunch, or your jeans just feel a little less tight by the time evening rolls around.
So by the time we hit the end of week 1, all this microscopic work builds into an incredible, full-body physiological relief. Here's the thing you have to understand. Visceral fat is not just sitting there like a passive blob. It actually behaves almost like an organ itself. It's constantly pumping out these chemicals that keep your entire body in a low-grade, constant fire alarm state of inflammation. That's exactly why having high visceral fat leaves people feeling achy, brain-fogged, and just exhausted for no obvious reason. But by day 7 of this fat shrinking, your body is finally able to turn down that internal smoke alarm. You'll start sleeping deeper, you'll wake up way less stiff, and you'll definitely notice less puffiness in your hands and face. As we move into weeks 2 and 3, man, this is the magic phase. This is where your biology finally stops fighting you tooth and nail. The internal mechanics here are just mind-blowing. Your hunger signals literally start to repair themselves, putting an end to those exhausting daily battles with food. Basically, as that deep fat shrinks, a super helpful hormone called adiponectin rises. You can think of adiponectin as the good cop in your fat cells. It helps your muscles use sugar properly and keeps you burning that stored fat. And right at the exact same time, the signal from a hormone called leptin finally clears up. See, so many people struggle with leptin resistance, which is basically when the brain is deaf to the "hey, I'm full" signal. But now, that signal is loud and clear again. The result is that those crazy, intense cravings just drop. You're no longer tearing apart the kitchen at 10 p.m. desperate for a bag of chips. Your hormones are finally playing on your team. Okay, advancing to weeks 3 through 6. This is where the invisible changes finally spill over into the visible world. Because visceral fat is so incredibly metabolically active, it's usually the very first fat to accumulate, but thankfully, it's also the first fat to go. There was this massive 2023 review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that pulled together 40 different studies. We're talking data from over 2,000 people, and the pattern they found was totally undeniable. It completely confirmed that consistent movement combined with mindful eating, specifically mixing exercise with a calorie deficit, will absolutely radically loosen your waistband. But here is the really surprising part. Researchers found that regular exercise held its own remarkably well, even if people weren't strictly cutting calories. Seriously, this is exactly why, during this phase, your favorite belt is a much better progress report than your bathroom scale.
And now we reach months 2 and 3. We like to call this the real physiological reset. At this point, you aren't just dropping fat anymore. Your entire body is fundamentally shifting out of survival mode and jumping straight into repair mode.
If we take an impartial look at the latest research, the long-term wins here are just undeniable across the board. Take the famous pounds lost trial. It proved that pure consistency always beats whatever trendy name is slapped on your diet. At the same time, a huge 2025 review looking at weight loss medications like tirzepatide and semaglutide showed they also drive massive visceral fat loss. Plus, a 2025 pilot study showed that targeted treatments, when you pair them with exercise, hold those results steady even 6 months down the line. So whether you get there through lifestyle consistency or with medical support, shedding this toxic fat leads to incredible long-term wins. We're talking steadier blood sugar, lower blood pressure, and get this, even improved breathing, simply because your organs aren't being physically squeezed anymore. How wild is that?
Now, all of this brings us to a genuinely mind-blowing reveal about how this fad physically leaves your body. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder, where does it go once it's broken down?
I mean, you might naturally assume it just kind of melts away, or maybe it burns up entirely as pure heat, right? But the scientific reality is actually shocking. It all comes down to one specific number, 84%.
Get this. You literally exhale 84% of your lost fat as carbon dioxide right through your lungs. No way, right? The remaining 16% just leaves your body as water, through sweat and urine. But think about what that 84% really means. It means that every single deep breath you take, every flight of stairs you climb, and every single daily walk is a literal chemical part of the exit process. You are quite literally breathing your fat out into the air.
But hey, there's a really vital physiological warning we need to touch on here. Because your shrinking fat tissue is quietly releasing compounds that it's been hoarding for years. Avoiding those extreme crash diets is absolutely crucial. See, losing fat too fast can dump more of these stored compounds into your bloodstream than your poor body can comfortably handle. Choosing a steady, consistent pace prevents your system from getting totally overwhelmed. It makes your progress significantly safer and way longer lasting.
So since we now know that the most important internal changes happen long before the mirror ever claps for you, it really comes down to just mastering the basics. Get better sleep, take those daily walks, eat real whole food, cut out the liquid sugar, and maybe try eating slightly earlier dinners. It's not magic, it's consistency. So what do you say? Are you ready to stop fighting the bathroom scale, master these boring but brilliant habits, and start literally breathing out your silent killer today?